Greetings, students. Let's go through the semester project, basically the final paper due at the end of the semester. Now is the time, though, to begin preparing for it. So let's go through the course real quick and show you where it's located. So when you open up the course, this is what it'll look like. It's located, the instructions are located in the syllabus, but where you're going to submit it and the instructions are also located here. So let's click here. And the instructions are right here, so go ahead and click. And so what you're going to do with this is you're going to choose a primary source by clicking here. Let's click this real quick and I'll show you the list of primary sources. Each of these are hyperlinks, so you can take a look at them. But before I go into that, I want to make sure you understand the difference between a primary source and a secondary source. And I will include a video to explain the differences there. What you're going to, a primary source is a document, an artifact from the historical period in which we're studying. So a primary source can be a newspaper written at the time, it could be a letter written to somebody at the time, it could be a journal entry, a diary, it could be a law, a speech, and any artifact that is produced during that time period. A secondary source is what historians produce, either in text or in film. They take primary sources and they thread a narrative around that to create what is called history. And that's basically what you're going to be doing with this assignment. You're going to be identifying a primary source using the secondary sources that have been assigned, which are basically the lectures. So any of the text from the lectures, that's a secondary source. Any of the videos in the lectures, that is a secondary source. Any of the documentaries that are included in the lectures, that is a secondary source. So you're going to, again, identify a primary source and use the secondary sources to help you create a narrative around that primary source to help you analyze what's going on with that primary source. So let's take a look at what some of these are. You can take any of them for an example. You can look at this letter to President Washington. All right, you'll click here and it'll give you an explanation of what it is. All right, it's a letter to Washington, and basically this is a letter writing to the president. It's from Big Tree in Seneca, 1790. So it's from the Seneca tribe, wanting to address a concern to the President of the United States at the time, George Washington. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to identify a primary source. And how you're going to do that, you're going to basically choose yours. You can actually write into this. It'll record in real time. So if I were to choose this one, I would write my name right there, Robert Kennedy. And there, that one's mine. No one else can choose that, right? So that's the first task you want to do, is you want to go through this and see which one looks interesting to you and go ahead and choose that one. And from there, what you're going to do is you want to read that primary source, whichever one you choose, and then you're going to proceed by answering the questions, which are posted below, and I'll go through those in just a little bit. They're at the end of this document here. So just to go through the semantics of this assignment, your essay must be typewritten, double-spaced, legitimate font and format, 1,250 words, which is 3 to 5 pages, 12 font. Using readings assigned for this course specifically, you may not use outside sources, but you're specifically going to use sources, the lectures, when you cite work. You're going to cite by using Chicago-Turabian. And let me just say this about Chicago-Turabian, like any other citation, it's not rocket science. It's basically follow the format and you'll be okay with it. Here I have a citation machine. Primarily what you're citing are websites. That's what the lectures are based on. So follow the information, plug in the information here, and then create your citation, and it will spit out the format. What you're going to only do here is you are going to create endnotes. If you want to see what Chicago-Turabian looks like, you're going to click here. Right, so this will show you basically what Chicago-Turabian. You don't have to create a cover page for this, and that's identified in the assignment itself. But what you want to make sure you understand is how to cite work. You don't have to have a works cited page for this also. You just need to endnote your work. And here are examples of how to do this. So in Word, in Microsoft Word, you will follow the directions. It's within references, the reference tab. So just go there and you can just type in Chicago Tribune and it will do this for you. If you're unsure of how to do that, just simply Google, go through YouTube, how to put footnotes within Microsoft Word. All right, so again, this is an example of how to do it. Use the citation engine. It does the work for you. So not rocket science. Don't make it out anything you have to. It's just a way of you identifying where you got your work from. All right, so moving on from that, your paper must cite at least 5 secondary sources. And again, the secondary sources must come from the lectures, no outside sources. You do not need to cover a cover page or a works cited page. Just have endnotes or footnotes at the bottom of your page. Essays must have a strong thesis. In the first paragraph, answer the questions correctly with reasoned arguments, evidence, and organized structure based on the primary source evidence. Egregious grammatical errors will adversely affect the grade. And to see how you will be assessed, right here, this is the rubric. This is straight from the grade book. I will use this to assess your paper. So please go through that. There's an element for you will get credit for your thesis statement, analyzing the information, organization, sentence structure, right? So make sure you understand exactly how it is going to be referenced. The last guideline as far as semantics is concerned, do not write in first or second person. This holds true for almost all academic writing unless you are otherwise instructed. Write only in third person. So don't write I or we or you, just write in third person. There's a couple of reasons for this. One, third person is a stronger voice. It lends to argumentation a lot more effectively. And two, part of what it means to be a college-educated person is that you can communicate in the written word effectively. And part of that, a major part of that, is to learn how to write concisely. And to write concisely, all that means is that you are economical with your words. You're using as few words as possible to still communicate complex ideas. So when you write in first person, you automatically have to use more words than is necessary. So let's just take a simple sentence. I think slavery was immoral. Right? You can throw out the first 2 words and still convey the same idea. Slavery was immoral, period. Right? So this does a couple of that. One, that eliminates 2 words. You're writing concisely, and 2, it argues a bit stronger as far as its voice is concerned. Slavery is immoral. That's not your opinion. There are facts to back that up as how that comes across. Now, what you would do in that is you would explain why it was immoral without hiding behind an identity and ego. So keep that in mind when you are writing. Please do not write in first or second person. So here are the questions that you need to respond to. Generally, for part 1, what does your chosen source demonstrate about the time period when it was produced? In order to answer this question, you will need to do the following. So to answer this, these 4 points need to be addressed. Explain and analyze what you can determine about the author, of the person in the primary source, the author's point of view. Identify a quote from the passage and explain why that quote determines the author's point of view. Now, to explain the author's point of view further, too, it might be helpful to grab some secondary sources to help analyze what the author's point of view is. Because sometimes you might read a primary source and it's not clear within the context of the document exactly what the point of view is. Usually it will be, but this is where it might be helpful to use one of your required secondary sources. You have to have at least 5, and at least 5 is the minimum. You can go over 5 if and when it's necessary. So it might be helpful there. Second thing you want to do is explain and analyze what you can determine about the document's likely audience and their point of view. Identify a quote from the passage and explain why that quote, when I say the passage, I'm meaning the primary source, and explain why that quote determines the audience point of view. Here you will want to identify secondary sources from the lecture content. That will give you further credence to explain the likely audience's point of view here. And then summarize, number 3, you want to summarize the author's message, which you could probably do through the primary document itself. You want to summarize it in your own words, but feel free to use secondary sources to back up your analysis of the author's message. The fourth thing you want to do is what do they, the person writing it, so he or she, want to convince their audience to do or think? How do they want to go about this? Please identify a quote that helps respond to this question. Here you will need to identify secondary sources as well. So, you want to use secondary sources here to further clarify what the primary source author is wanting to convince his or her audience of. So keep that in mind. And second, explain and analyze what you can determine about the context in which the document was produced. Here you will need to identify secondary sources from the lecture content as well. So that's basically the assignment. It's not too hard of an assignment if you plan accordingly. If you plan at the last week of the semester, it might be a bit of a challenge, but if you begin now, you'll do fine with it. Keep in mind this is an essay, and an essay has a specific meaning. It comes from the French word to try. So please make an attempt at the very least. You'll do fine with it. You can send me rough drafts through the link, and I'll show you that in just a second. Let's do that actually right now. All right, so here's how we're going to submit it. You could write your submission here, or you could browse from your computer and send it. If you want to send me a rough draft at any point, go ahead and do so through this link. Again, this link is located at the bottom of the course. So right here, week 9. I'm going to click here and open it up. Again, write submission. You can put it right there. You can, I wouldn't type your paper in here. You can copy and paste from a document if you like. If you type it in here from scratch and the internet goes out at you, it will not automatically save. So avoid using this as the place where you're producing your paper. You're perfectly okay to copy and paste from a document and put it in there. Or you can browse a document. Keep in mind, plagiarism does count. So if you do not plagiarize, you will have to click this because it will be uploaded to a database that will detect any plagiarism. The sanction for plagiarism in this course is you will earn a failing grade for the semester. You won't be withdrawn. You won't be dropped from the course. You will earn a failing grade for the semester. So don't do that. It's not worth it. It's better just to submit a paper that's going to earn you a low grade, because keep in mind it is worth 20%. That is significant, but if you're doing fine on the exams and you turn in a C paper or even a high D paper, that's not going to have too much of an impact on your overall grade. You know, it's in relation to your overall grade. 20% isn't your total grade. There's still 80% outside of that. So do keep that in mind. Other than that, I think that's all I have to share with you on this. Please, your first task is to scroll up here and click. You want to first choose your primary source. So I think I will have that due by, what is today? The 26th. Okay, let's have that due by next Monday, which will be July 3rd. So by July 3rd, you should have chosen a primary source. And again, just type your name at the primary source in which you want to choose. So go through there, read a few, find something that's interesting to you. There's quite a few interesting passages in here. There's things about abolitionism. There's things about Native American relations with the government. There's things about the Federalist Papers here. There's things about the Mexican-American War here. There are things about women's rights. All sorts of different issues. So go through it, find something that's interesting to you, and then try to align it with the content by analyzing it as directed with the two main questions that you have to respond to. It's just a 3 to 5 page paper. Usually students write it within 4 pages. If you write concisely, 3 pages should suffice. If you go over 5, you might want to edit, and that's kind of the mark of a good writer. They usually write quite a bit, and then they begin to edit all the unnecessary stuff. So keep it to 5 pages. Other than that, over and out, and do let me know if you have any questions.